Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About, the show where everything's made up and the points that matter. That's it. The points are like me trying to set my camera up. Man, it looks like I didn't even think I was going to film. Stuff people don't film or edit out normally. Well, that's the thing. I don't edit around here. I just go boom, boom. And right now, I'm going to talk about Jacelyn Bywater. So I make a Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones lore vids where I try to find characters that you're not going to hear about a lot. They're not part of any crazy cool theories. And I still try to squeeze a little bit of symbolism out of them. But also, I like to just give them some love. Been doing this for a little bit. I took a break, but I'm back and I'm going to make a couple more. Maybe. I don't know. They're really fun to make. And so my name's Taco. We're going to talk about Jacelyn Bywater from the Song of Ice and Fire lore. And I'm going to do it all in one take. No edits or anything. I kind of like to improv. I do have these cards that I read off of, but I also, I like take I jump back and forth and add a little bit more and then add in some jokes and whatever. It's a show. Welcome. Subscribe, yo. So we're talking about Jacelyn Bywater. And I think there's never a good way to start. So we'll just start. Iron Hand. Sir Jacelyn Bywater, called Iron Hand, is a knight of House Bywater, and he is serving he is a serving officer of the City Watch of King's Landing and captain of the Mudgate. That's a really dirty name for a gate. Mudgate. Jeez, guys. Jeez, George. At the start of the books, Jacelyn is tall, lantern jaw. What does that mean? What's a lantern jaw? It sticks out, or it's light, it's bright? What's a lantern jaw? With deep set eyes, a prominent brow, and salt and pepper hair. He has an iron hand strapped to his right wrist, where that's a lot of rough, where he lost his hand, hence his very clever nickname. Jacelyn Bywater lost a hand fighting in the Siege of Pike during the Greyjoy Rebellion. Afterwards, he was knighted by Robert the First Baratheon. Iron Hand is considered brave and honorable by Varys, which, who knows if he's being honest whenever he compliments people. But he is seen as rigid and corrupt by the frog-like Janos Slynt. I can't talk about Janos without mentioning that George constantly calls him frog-like. He's very frog-faced. So I call him Froggy a lot in this script. Maybe just a couple times. All right, so that was just your quick rundown of who Iron Hand is, who Jacelyn Bywater is. So, Commander of the Guards, commander of just, the Mudgate in King's Landing. So what I normally like to do for the second slide is I like to go back and actually look at the houses when there is a house to look at. Let's talk about House Bywater. House Bywater is a noble house from the Crown Lands. When the realm began to turn against King Maegor the First Targaryen, or Maegor the Cruel, of course, for Prince Jaehaerys Targaryen, the Lord Bywater, we don't know his name, just Lord Bywater, was one of the few lords who gathered at his command. However, when Maegor mysteriously died upon the throne, he fled. We're not really sure if he had anything to do with it, but yeah, we'll get to that. I know it's really weird, but we're going to talk about Maegor the Cruel later on in the script. Isn't that goofy? That's House Bywater, Crown Lands house. No real big seats that I know of. They're not really, they're not a big house. They're not a powerful house by any means. So let's talk about the commander of the City Watch. So Sir Jacelyn has been captain of the Mudgate in King's Landing for 3 years when Tyrion Lannister arrives and takes up the position of Hand of the King in 299 AC. So this is Clash of Kings. This is the second book, second season. Right? Okay. He is named commander of the City Watch after Tyrion dismisses Little Froggy Slynt. Tyrion instructs Jacelyn to make sure that Aller Deem is thrown overboard while Summer's Dream sails to Eastwatch by the sea. Aller Deem is a member of the City Watch of King's Landing, one of Janos Slynt's most ardent supporters, and a murderer of Bara, King Robert's infant daughter. There's a lot to unpack there. So the first conversation that Tyrion has with Janos right when he makes it to King's Landing is right after the City Watch goes and kills a bunch of Robert's bastards, one of them being Bara, who is a infant girl, little baby. And this dude, Aller Deem, is the one who killed the... Oh my God, I can't keep talking about this. It's horrible. And Janos, now that he's a lord, because he betrayed Ned Stark, they're trying to find a replacement for City Watch because he keeps running the City Watch, even though he's now the Lord of Harrenhal. Never makes it. So he tells Tyrion, oh, why don't you guys get Aller Deem to be, the new Lord Commander. He's great and all this and all this. And of course, Tyrion already knows that he's going to go with Jacelyn Bywater. And then he starts asking about Jacelyn Bywater. And and Janos is like, oh, he's a weirdo. No one likes him. So when they send him to the Watch, Aller Deem also takes the Black, but Tyrion tells Jacelyn, like, make sure somebody murders Deem at least. I keep saying Dean or Deem. It's Deem, right? At least. Like, don't kill Janos on the way up there. He's a little too... People would notice if we just killed off Janos, but let's at least get rid of that dude who did that horrible stuff. All right. For Janos and for the king. But anyways, Jacelyn receives Sir Cleos Frey when the latter arrives to give terms from Robb Stark. If you guys want me to cover Cleos, I could. I don't think he's in the show. It's one of my requirements that I want to make sure they're not in the show. But if he's in the show, he's probably doesn't have a speaking line. I mean, I might be able to cover Cleos Frey. When the later arrives to give terms from Robb Stark in King's Land, the King in the North. After Pycelle is imprisoned by Tyrion, Jacelyn defies Queen Cersei Lannister's attempt to free the Grand Maester. So I'm just letting you know that, a lot of these characters, and this guy especially, is just kind of part of the real big stuff that are going around. He just has his little, he's just got his little role in all these little parts. And yeah, when you look at least in the books, Tyrion's time in King's Landing, he kind of has like three main guys that work for him. And one of them, of course, is Bronn. And then I guess a lot more when you're talking about the mountain clansmen, the wildlings from the Vale. But Shega is kind of like his main one there, but then he also has son of Timon and stuff like that. I kind of clump them all into one. But then the other guy, who isn't a sellsword or a savage, you have Bywater does a lot of work for him. That's all I was trying to say. So the Handsman, that's exactly what I was about to talk about. Jacelyn leads a wedge of mounted lancers during the Rite of King's Landing after Princess Marcella Baratheon's departure to Dorne. Jacelyn tells Tyrion about the spread of the bloody flux at Pisswater Bend. Horrible name, Pisswater Bend. Gross. And about the growing revolt among the small folk and how Tyrion is personally blamed for hard times. Oof, that's rough, man. Tyrion orders Jacelyn to find the missing Tyreek Lannister, but of course he fails because little Ty is still missing. Yeah, Tyreek Lannister. I would cover Tyreek Lannister, but I feel like other YouTubers have. He's kind of a big mystery. He's a famous mystery. But essentially, Jacelyn talks to him after the riots. I literally just listened to this chapter, and he tells him all this stuff. And one of the things is, like, you need to find Tyreek Lannister alive or dead. They never do. The world may never know. Jacelyn obeys Tyrion's orders to seize Prince Tommen on the Rosby Road, imprisoning Lord Giles Rosby and Sir Boris Blount, who I have covered on this show, in the process, and keeping Tommen safe and out of the reach of Cersei. For this, Iron Hand earns the Queen's enmity along with a lordship from Tyrion. Yeah, he gets a lordship for this. Yeah, so this is a huge thing that's left out of the shows. Is they literally start moving around Tommen like a chess piece, and it's kind of really what splits. Like, of course, Cersei hates Tyrion, but they're kind of almost working together in the books for a little bit until she tries to hide Tommen in House Rosby, and just so to protect him. And it's probably not even hiding him from. She's probably not even hiding him from Tyrion. She's probably just hiding him. And Tyrion takes the opportunity to kidnap him and hide him himself, and kind of use him as like a chip against Cersei. Like, hey, Cersei, you can't mess with me because I have your son. It's pretty dark, and it's a pretty bold move, and it's really what drives those two siblings even further apart to really be enemies and not just like people who hate each other. All right, the Blackwater. So this is all going to be Feast for Crows, or not Feast for Crows, Storm of Swords. So we just made it through Clash. So this is going to be after the Blackwater, is when Tyrion's finding all of this out, and it's what happened to Jacelyn during the Battle of the Blackwater. After Tyrion wakes up from his injuries he got from the Battle of the Blackwater, my boy Bronn informs Tyrion that when King Joffrey retreated to the Red Keep during the Battle of the Blackwater, half of the Gold Cloaks tried to retreat as well. So they tried to retreat after they saw their king retreating. Jacelyn tried to rally them, but was struck in the throat by an arrow, and then the Gold Cloaks dragged him from his horse and killed him. Wow! That's so blink and you miss it. I really think the first time I went through this, I didn't know what happened to Jacelyn Bywater. Like, he just gets murdered by his own men during the Blackwater, or Jacelyn Bywater. Yeah. Oh my God, that's insane. During a meeting of the small council, Tyrion suggests that Jacelyn's killers should have their knees broken, with Jacelyn dead. Cersei, which I don't know if that ever happened. Probably not. With Jacelyn dead, Cersei sends the freaking Kettle Blacks to free Tommen from Rosby. I will cover all three of the Kettle Blacks if you guys want me to. I'll do a Kettle Black freaking month. I'll be a month of the Kettle Blacks if somebody asks me. All right, so that's it. Jocelyn's dead, but I got some symbolism for you. All right. Some of this is tinfoil, one of them is, but one of them I definitely think that George put in here so we could make connections. But one of the other ones is just me being bored. All right, so let's talk about Jaime's symbolism. So Iron Hand and House Bywater have a few very odd connections to Jaime. Having lost his sword hand, Sir Jaime considers wearing a golden hand similar to that of the Iron Hand once worn from Jacelyn, and eventually does. So what I'm trying to say here is they do make this a little bit of connection on their own, because when he thinks about getting a golden hand, he literally thinks of, like Jacelyn Bywater does, right? Like he's making the connection himself to Bywater when he wants to get the gold hand. When Janos is first discussing Iron Hand with Tyrion, he says this whole thing. I'll say it. Bywater, well, brave man to be sure, but rigid. That one a queer dog. The men don't like him. A cripple too. He lost his hand at Pike, and that's what got him knighted. A poor trade, if you ask me. A hand for a sir. Sir Jacelyn thinks over much of himself and his honor, as I see it. Over much. Good wordage there, Jacelyn. So, two things there. The idea that a crippled man doesn't get respect is something that weighs heavy on Jaime's mind, right? So this is literally affirming when Janos says, well, they don't respect him because he's a cripple. Jaime's a cripple, and he is afraid that since he lost his sword hand, no one's going to respect him anymore. So, yeah. So there's that connection there. And Iron Hand thinking high of himself and his honor. Jaime is famously extremely arrogant in the first 2.5 books, 2.5 books. Then he repeatedly gets his honor called into question because everyone always says, oh, you break your oaths, you don't have your honor. So there's another weird connection of this dude's also arrogant and thinks much of his honor, and Jaime is arrogant and everyone thinks low of his honor. So it's this another odd connection between Jaime and this random Jacelyn Bywater. The final connection. All right, so this, yeah, I got written here. This is a stretch, and it totally is. So Jaime killed a horrible Targaryen king, and a Lord Bywater, so not Jacelyn, but the Lord Bywater from back in the day, was the final man to see another horrible Targaryen king, Maegor. So is this an odd hint that Bywater, that this random Bywater Lord was his killer? Probably not. It's a little tinfoil. So let me explain that if I didn't. So since Jaime, a one-handed Lord, this is so out there. Since one-handed Lord Jaime, of course, he didn't have one hand when he did this. Well, he had two, so he had two one hands. Killed Aerys, but the last guy to be around Maegor and fled, and Maegor was found dead on his throne. Since there's this weird Bywater connection to Jaime, is this proof that Bywater killed Maegor? No, this is like that's reading way too into it. That's some Preston Jacobs level of stuff there. But yeah, there you go. That's my Jacelyn Bywater video. Thank you for watching it, and the very cool connections to Jaime Lannister. And if you have any really like obscure characters, so my requirements are they cannot have been featured in the show at all, and they cannot have been POV characters, and you know, I want to be able to squeeze something out of them, like find some cool symbolism, even if it's a little bit like this, right? So yeah, thank you for watching. There are some videos here. I make a bunch of different stuff: A Song of Ice and Fire stuff, Star Wars stuff, fighting game stuff, Pokemon stuff, all over. Just my favorite interests. I make stuff for them. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. And whatever you do not lose your hand. It's needed. You need one. You need them. All right.